When you refer to them, just go ahead and stand
Yes.
them up.
Yeah.
No worries. A little bag of tricks.
Next trick. Funny. Just don't slow anyone down.
Let's do it. Great.
Hello, my name is Jacoby Mireles from Troop 2904, and I'm presenting my theoretical scenic design of The Odyssey by Homer and Thomas Isaac. When I first read The Odyssey, I enjoyed it. It was an amazing story to read and really interested me. And when I first was able to have an option to design something, this was my first idea. So I reread it, and I reread it one more time occasionally to understand the themes of it and what it needed from me as a scenic designer. From it, I interpreted two major things, and it was the amount of adventure and the amount of just utility that happens throughout multiple times in the show. The Odyssey follows the main character Odysseus traveling home from the Trojan War to his home country of Ithaca, and eventually having to fight for his place on the throne once more. During the first part, it follows his recapturing of his journeys against monsters, nymphs, and many other creatures that impeded his journey. As a reflection of this, one of my main goals was to interpret the drastic amount of setting changes that are explained and the amount of different places he had to go. And through this, I decided that I needed to have a simplistic set to allow the actors as much room to show what the audience was happening, as I felt that a scene change for every scene was not feasible. Even with the biggest theater and the biggest amount of time, you can't do that. So the actors would need to have the load of showing the scenes. However, I did realize that any scenes that did need to be done needed to be done in a versatile way, meaning that any set design I did make, I made with the intention of being used in multiple scenes. To begin with, the upstage bridge is the first place that I started off with. The premise of the Odyssey follows around Odysseus' ship, as many of his crewmates follow him around the ocean sailing back. This follows heavy ship-inspired motifs and follows other grand adventures, which is where the towers come from, utilizing our theater's designs of light towers, but repurposed with flats, so that way they have a constant wood look, appears to be like a mast, or other large scale parts of the ship. Additionally, as a more utility focus for the actors, this grants one of the only consistent way to grant elevation naturally, meaning that actors during certain monologues, certain entrances, would be able to come on and naturally bring the attention to them, and when paired with the lighting designers or costume designers, would be able to perfectly bring the attention to them and offer them whatever needed. From there, I decided that some scenes did need a lot more difference of a set than just what was given. And some of the first things I thought of were some of the island scenes, mainly being the scene with Circe, which is why I created the a moving truck which would be stored under the bridge and can be brought out for multiple scenes. The one I have in mind, or created this in mind with, was the scene with Circe, the sorceress, where they are stuck on an island with Circe and must deal with her and stay with her for eventually a year. Her island is implied to be heavily overgrown and very natural, which is why I gave it a very like a natural tone. However, I did design it vaguely, as I didn't want it to be used in any other outdoor and island scenes, such as the Cattle with the Sun God scene, which is where they land on a different island and eventually decide to kill some cattle owned by the god Apollo, or Helios, and are later all struck down by him, leaving only Odysseus. These scenes, despite being wildly different, I did decide that could be used with the same truck, and I approached that same thing with the other truck on stage right, being a more royal and regal, which would be used for the scenes with any scenes with royalty, and especially in Ithaca. The last mechanic I decided to implement were the tables, which would be used primarily in the second portion of the Odyssey once the return to Ithaca happens, where in the first major scene in the palace, Odysseus encounters multiple suitors attempting to court his wife, as it is assumed that Odysseus has been dead and that it's possible to take the throne. During this scene, the tables are brought out to showcase the amount of suitors coming in and hoping for a chance at the throne. I designed these, of course, so that way they could be used for that purpose. However, they would be small enough where during certain other scenes, the main one being Scylla and Charybdis, they could be turned over to simulate a tight-knit ship. During this, the actors of the crew would be in between the tables and rowing, because they are sailing between two dangerous sea monsters, being Scylla and Charybdis. This creates that feeling of tension between two giant monsters and one small ship, which I understand would create tension and have the utility throughout the entire set to constantly reuse and reimagine how the pieces were to be used, and can also reflect how the crewmates were additionally sometimes pressed to use their own wits, especially Odysseus, to use their own wits to use whatever was given to them to their advantage. That resourcefulness is something I wanted to reflect in the set, which I feel would also reflect back onto Odysseus. That will.
So this is theoretical, right?
Yes.
Okay. So did you design it with a specific style of theater? Proscenium, thrust?
Proscenium. What is proscenium?
Okay.
However, it could be done in arena, probably, but it was designed for proscenium.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your minimal set there is very conducive to either thrust or even in the round. So, for sure.
What did you say the trucks actually are?
The trucks are moving platforms, moving flats. Platforms, yeah.
Right, so it's just
Yes.
grass that comes out.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Just forward and back, they store under the bridge and would come out for certain scenes.
On wheels?
On wheels, yes, on wheels. Straight cast, so that way they just go straight forward, straight back, no swivel.
What is the height of your bridges from the deck?
The bridges are 4 feet tall.
4 feet.
Okay. It is, the one is tall at a quarter inch to 1 foot scale.
What research did you do?
My research was focused on, our school's production of the Odyssey in 2008, which was done in our cafeteria. So I did have to adapt, the different area to what this had. And additionally, I had different, objectives for adapting it. I also researched, typical, like, what is, like, the general feeling of of ancient Greece, especially with the deck and with the stage right track being the palace track, I suppose.
Okay, now you weren't around in 2008
Yes,
to see that
yeah,
version.
I only looked at images that we have from back then.
So photographs of the actual set.
This photographs of the set.
Were there any drawings that you were able to get a
No,
hold of?
I
or
was not
anything?
able to.
Just the pictures
Yeah.
of the set? Okay.
If remind me, the poles, so they're masts, right?
They aren't anything exactly, they are more just to give the depth of a large ship. They can be interpreted to be mass, they can be
Okay.
interpreted to be anything, however they want to give the scale of it and build with the texture of the upstage being the highest point and the focal point of any actors out there.
And are there stairs behind?
No, there's only on the side
Side,
and
okay,
in
cool.
some stage.
And so that's like 25 feet?
These
Across?
would be 36 feet across. So these would be barely to the edge of the proscenium.
Judges, if you have time for one more question. Did you have an idea of budget for creating that set?
I did not have any budget in mind, but I do imagine it would be able to be done with a decently low budget as, I know at our school we do have the resources already to create a lot of this and very little would have to be bought specifically for the set. As for this production where less resources were already had, I'm not exactly sure about the budget.
Did you do any amount of research to for what it might have looked like is it supposed to evoke ancient Greece? Evoke now, is it a modern adaptation, you know?
It is supposed to invoke ancient Greece and have a slightly weathered feel to it.
Thank you.